Hey, it's Rick Kettner here. Let's talk about why hugely successful businesses can sometimes suddenly fail. And more important than that, the one thing that you can do with your business to avoid their fate. Now, there are countless examples of big businesses out there that have suddenly gone under. Some more popular examples include Blockbuster, Sears, Kodak, many businesses like this. And on the surface, what seems to happen with these businesses is that they fail to innovate or they slowly fall behind. And eventually, a rival comes out with a better, more innovative solution for whatever it is that they do, and then they suddenly go bankrupt or disappear. What I want to focus on in this video is why this happens with so many businesses. Why do they fail to innovate? Why do they start to fall behind? And what can you do with your business to avoid the same situation? Now, before I actually dive into this, if you're interested in learning even more about business, marketing, or entrepreneurship, I recommend that you subscribe or follow my updates so that you don't miss out on future videos. And if you enjoy this kind of video, please let me know by clicking the like button down below. But let's get into it, starting with the problem that causes businesses to go down the wrong path in the first place, and that is falling in love with how they provide value. Businesses often become obsessed with one specific way to meet a customer's need or to solve a certain problem that customers may have. So going to Blockbuster, for example, they fell in love with DVD rentals, renting DVDs rather than the bigger picture need that customers had, which was getting video entertainment. They fell in love with just selling DVDs, and they built their entire business around that approach to solving the need. Kodak, they fell in love with the camera business, building, making, selling cameras to consumers rather than the underlying need of customers, which is capturing and sharing memories. That's what people actually want when they purchase a camera. But Kodak fell in love with the one approach of making and selling cameras. A more modern example of this would be Audible, a company that I absolutely love. I bought audiobooks from Audible for probably 10 plus years now. They're my favorite company when it comes to getting audiobook content, but they fell in love with just audiobooks. One way to solve the larger need that people have when it comes to getting entertainment or educational content that is purely in audio format. And so they've opened up the door to companies like Apple and Spotify to take over the emerging trend of podcasts and other forms of audio content that to date, Audible has done very, very little to actually capture. So as people's needs change, much like Blockbuster and people wanting to consume video content shifted from DVDs over to streaming television and things like that, Audible is at the very real risk of missing out on the future of audio content. This brings us to the solution. Falling in love with meeting customer needs. The most successful businesses don't fall in love with how they currently meet the needs, wants, and desires of customers. They're always looking for new and better ways to meet the needs of customers, no matter what, even if that potentially cannibalizes their existing business. They're always thinking, how can we do what we do for customers? How can we meet their needs in a better or different way so that they can actually disrupt themselves, so they don't end up painting themselves into a corner where they only solve things in one way. So for example, customers, going back to my earlier examples, but kind of inverting them here, customers want video entertainment. Renting DVDs is only one way to meet that need. And unfortunately for Blockbuster, it's an outdated method, a method that people no longer care about, at least not nearly as much as they used to. And so Blockbuster went under. The need is still there, but Blockbuster isn't. Netflix not only solved the need, they went a stage further. They switched over to streaming video, but they also started creating and funding original content of their own to actually provide more content for the need that people have. So they took everything to the next level. Customers also want to capture and share memories. I mentioned this earlier within the context of Kodak. But selling a camera to a customer is only one way to help with that need. Here's an interesting, not prediction, but I guess example of what could have changed had Kodak actually focused on the need. Instead of becoming obsessed with cameras, if they were just totally obsessed with solving this problem of capturing and sharing memories, Kodak could have created Instagram. They could have been the business to create something like Instagram for people today. They probably couldn't have avoided having Apple and other smartphone manufacturers integrate cameras into their product. That convergence was almost certainly going to happen no matter what, but they could have been the software company like Instagram, like Facebook, to make the connection. If they were truly 100% obsessed with the underlying need of capturing and sharing memories, that is what Instagram is all about. That's the whole idea behind Instagram. So had Kodak been focused on that, they could have had a brighter and much different future. Going to the other example, customers want to listen to entertaining or educational content. Audiobooks are only one way to meet that need. Audible focused on that. Spotify and others are focused on new and perhaps better ways to solve that need, at least as far as the majority of consumers are concerned. Not everybody listens to audiobooks, but more and more people are interested in consuming audio-based content when it comes to sports coverage, news, entertainment, all kinds of things. Many more people seem to be interested in podcasts than just audiobooks. So they may very well miss out on that entire opportunity. At least right now, that is the trajectory that they're on. So let's look at examples of companies taking the correct approach. Apple, they focus on helping people manage their digital lives. This has been their story for decades, with the original Apple II for smaller early adopters, but then with the Macintosh, the iMac. But they didn't just become a computer company. They created the iPhone, a modern and completely different approach to helping people manage their digital lives. They made this huge change and became a smartphone company. And so this is an example of how you don't necessarily focus on what has worked in the past. You focus on whatever it is that's going to move you forward with serving their underlying need. And of course, they've since created products like the iPad, like the Apple Watch. Augmented reality glasses are likely next. They continue to try to meet the evolving needs of customers within the realm of managing their digital lives. Tesla is a really interesting example. This one is, and maybe not for the reason why you might think, really interesting example. The underlying need that people have is getting from point A to point B. Getting from home to work, getting from home to a restaurant, home to entertainment, whatever it might be, people need to move from point A to point B. That is the underlying need. So the obvious thing for them to do, or perhaps not obvious, but the first step that they went through with is creating a modern approach to vehicles with their all-electric approach behind Tesla vehicles. Brilliant strategy, very difficult to pull off. They managed to pull that off, but here's where things get a lot more interesting. Elon Musk also created the Boring Company, a company that is boring literal holes into the ground, building underground tunnels to connect different locations. Again, it's about moving people from point A to point B. If you stood back and just looked at this as an automaker, why would Elon Musk, the automaker, be interested in creating underground tunnels beyond simply moving cars? It's not about moving cars. It's about solving the underlying need that people have, moving from point A to point B more effectively. And likewise, he's also pushing forward this idea of the Hyperloop, another mode of transportation that's all about moving people more effectively from point A to point B. The connecting glue behind all these ideas is moving people. That's the underlying need that customers have, and he's not falling in love with any one method of solving that need. Another final example here, Amazon. People want to buy everyday products. They need to buy everyday products, whatever that might be. Amazon revolutionized that first by creating Amazon.com. They started with books. They branched out to more and more products, but they didn't stop there. Again, they're pushing the envelope. Even with their classic products like books and DVDs and movies and software, they're finding digital ways to deliver those products and services. So they didn't become just a physical products company. They continue to evolve with Kindle for books, with Amazon Prime Video for video. They acquired Whole Foods for local logistics and serving groceries. They created Alexa, the voice assistant, to allow you to order things out loud by simply speaking to an Alexa speaker in your home. You can order products, order reshipments of anything that you've bought in the past. And they've created their Amazon Go stores. This is a relatively new initiative that they've started in the past few years, where they're creating local stores where you can walk in, grab the products you need, walk straight out, no checkout, no cashier. You get automatically billed for whatever you grabbed and took out of the store. So they're continuing to meet the same underlying need, people buying everyday products, but they're finding new and better ways to meet that need. So the underlying message behind this whole video, if we're going to bring everything that we've learned together, is this: don't fall in love with how you make money today. Become obsessed with finding new and better ways to solve the needs of your customers. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button down below. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments on anything that we covered here in the video, let me know down in the comment section. And if you're interested in learning more about business, marketing, or entrepreneurship, then I recommend that you subscribe or follow my updates so that you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.